It's for another Pro-Life Gen news update. It's 10:07. This is the earliest I could come to you today. It's been nonstop. I've been working since 7:30 this morning was my first meeting. Nonstop. I think I stopped for 30 minutes to play apples to apples with my kids at around 6 o'clock. So we have a lot to go over. But first thing we're going to cover is about this story you're going to see at the top of your screen here from New York City. So a couple of weeks ago, our Students for Life leaders were on campus hosting Students for Life's chemical abortion tour display. It's called This is Chemical Abortion, where we educate students about the violence of chemical abortion, how it harms women, and it's actually how it's harming our environment too. While we are there, a student grabs our rubber fetal models, shoves them in her mouth. We thought she ate them. She comes back later with them chewed up with bite marks, and where she had painted red on them, probably with fingernail polish, and then poked a coat hanger through them. This woman was deranged. She told our students to kill herself. We thought that was like the end of the craziness. Oh, no, 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 no. A professor comes up to the table, and we released a video at Students for Life where she is yelling at the students. One of the students was a male, so she told him he wasn't allowed to have an opinion on abortion because he couldn't gestate another human being, which we all know arguments don't have gender, but people do, and there are only two. So she insults him because of his gender, which, by the way, how dare you even assume his gender? But then she says pro-life speech is violent, and then she actually got violent. She started flipping over the pro-life students, our Students for Life leaders, material at the table. This woman gets violent, and she's being filmed this entire time. So we went live with this story at the end of last week, put up a video. It is all over the internet today. But the story gets worse, right? So the university doesn't really do anything. They don't say anything. Our Students for Life leader went on Laura Ingraham last night, talked about this. He was on Fox News several times today. But the story gets worse. The New York Post goes to this CUNY, it's a CUNY school, City of New York, Hunter College school professor's apartment door, tries to get her on the record to say what the heck was she thinking getting violent against her students, right? She comes to the door wielding a machete. This woman also has dread, so she's like Michonne from Walking Dead. You remember like the first season of Walking Dead when I watched it, it was really good. She comes to the door with a machete and steps out and puts the machete towards the reporter's neck and threatens to kill him. Yeah, this is what this person did. Our display talking about the violence of abortion was violent. We weren't allowed to talk about because speech is dangerous. This woman, this professor at Hunter College, answered the door and threatened a New York Post reporter with a damn machete. Abortion supporters are unhinged. If you support I've said this more than one time. If you support the violence of abortion, I have a hard time trusting you with anything else. Because you already think it's okay to kill babies. Like, what can be worse than killing babies? I can't really think of much more than that. So, yeah, the story is developing. And what we found out a couple hours ago is after this happened, not after she got violent with our students, after this happened and went public, the school finally fired her. So good at Hunter College finally firing her. The question is, what took them so long? And what's going on in their school administration to allow deranged people like this to teach our young people? Like, what made her believe that she could act this way towards students and create a hostile learning environment for students at the Hunter College by acting this way and get away with it? There was apparently no fear of the administration because of her behavior that she would actually lose her job. So that's story number one for the Pro-Life Gen News. We have lots of stories. Story number two, if you follow my Instagram, today I had like a 10-minute break. I canceled a conference call. I made a break, and I walked into a Target. I just wanted to see everything that I've been reporting, if everything I've been reporting about Target is actually true. Like, I wanted to see it for myself. Yeah, it's true. I was in rural Pennsylvania, not like in inner city, not in Washington, D.C. or Minneapolis or San Francisco. Rural Pennsylvania, Pride section was full on display. The extra crotch coverage and tuck-friendly bathing suit, the teen lesbian, whatever, proud lesbian clothes, the baby onesies, the kids' books. Yes, the kids' books. If you haven't followed my Instagram live from today, from inside a Target lunch break, take a few minutes to check it out. I was trying to be like stealth about it because I thought but after thinking about it, I probably should have just gotten loud, just like I was protesting. All right, another story. Let's see what's going on here. Okay, Dodgers. So there's this whole thing. They invited the baseball team, Dodgers, invited an anti-Catholic group. This like men that dress like nun drag to Pride Night. Um, they ended up reversing their decision, but then now they're getting more backlash because they reversed the decision. I don't know. I haven't fully. I guess they're going to bring them in. Let's see. After much thoughtful feedback from our diverse communities, honest conversations, the Los Angeles Dodgers organization, general discussions with the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, these are the drag performers, the Los Angeles Dodgers would like to offer sincere apologies to them, the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. They're not real sisters, right? Perpetual Indulgence. Members of the LGBT community and their friends and allies. We have asked them to take their place on our field, our 10th annual LGBTQ Pride Night on June 16th. We are pleased to share that they have agreed to receive the gratitude of our collective communities for life-saving work. So the Dodgers like invited them, took it back, and now because when LGBT community gets pissed, they get loud and they start scaring and threatening people. Now the Dodgers, I guess, have invited them back. So they're just a disaster. This is just a disaster. I think every mom and dad upset about how targets targeting our kids should probably take a lesson from the LGBTQ community right now. Another story. Okay, with growing abortion restrictions, Democrats push for over-the-counter birth control. This is coming soon. Okay, this is my question. Everyone's like, oh, over-the-counter birth control. First of all, over-the-counter birth control is dangerous. Birth control, I haven't been on a college campus in more than a year. I haven't been on a college campus where students disagree with me that birth control is dangerous for women's bodies. Left and right, pro-abortion students who disagree with me on every issue on abortion will say, you know what, I do agree with you on this. Birth control really messed me up. It really messed up my friend. Let me tell you about my experience. This is like a common, well-known thing. I actually think birth control, like hormonal birth control, artificial hormonal birth control, I think that's going to go out of fashion with this generation because this generation's like, there's got to be something better than putting artificial hormones into our body that literally changes our brains. But it's also really bad because this is the way the predators cover up their crimes, right? And we also know we are living in, as the CDC has said, an STD epidemic where I think it's like 1 in 2 of this generation has an incurable STD, which actually, if you look at some of the STDs, this is what's causing the high infertility rate. Like chlamydia, like gives you infertility, but no one ever talks about that. And Planned Parenthood calls it STIs, infections, because STIs doesn't sound as bad as STD, a disease, right? But these things are incurable, and they can make you infertile. But we don't want to have a real discussion with this generation. But it's been interesting about this whole discussion. This has been going on for years. Should we have over-the-counter birth control? You know who has one of the biggest lobbies in Washington, D.C.? Who can put the most money behind this if they really want it to happen? Planned Parenthood, the largest abortion vendor, largest distributor of hormonal birth control of any entity, right? Where are they on this? Now, think about this. Put your thinking caps on. They say they support it, which they have to, because ideologically they have to. This is where their people are, right? But here's a question. Have they put their money into it? Have they actually been lobbying for this? I spent about 15 minutes today. They blocked my Instagram account on Instagram, but they didn't block my personal one. So my Hawkins History Hunter personal family account, I follow Planned Parenthood because I like to be in the know what they're telling the kids. I follow their C4 and their C3 one. There's really no action for it. There's no national lobbying cry from Planned Parenthood telling Americans that we must, have over-the-counter birth control. They might say they support it, but their actions show they really don't care about it. Why do you ask yourself, is Planned Parenthood not lobbying for this and putting their full weight behind it? It's pretty obvious. This is one of their biggest cash cows that they have. This has been well known for years that Planned Parenthood marks up the price of birth control. They charge like $27, $30 a pack when they can get for like $2.50. That's very well known. That's Planned Parenthood for you guys. Think about that when you're thinking about your support of the abortion industry. All right, what else is going on? Oh, South Carolina! I forgot to tell you about South Carolina. Breaking news out of South Carolina. Oh no! Breaking news. So tonight, the Senate in South Carolina finally passed the Heartbeat Abortion Protection Act. Now, this bill passed a couple years ago, Heartbeat Protection Act, which prevents abortions when a child's heartbeat can be detected about 6 weeks. It got held up in the state Supreme Court, but things have changed, and the bill was tweaked a little bit. So when our life at conception bill that would have prevented all abortions in the state failed because 6 Republican senators stabbed the pro-life movement in the back, don't worry, we'll be door knocking starting this summer in South Carolina, getting ready for their primaries next year, educating voters about who backstabbed them. But anyway, so when that failed, the next step was, okay, if we can't prevent all abortions, let's prevent a majority of them. Abortions when a heart is beating, because that's the majority of abortions are actually committed after a child's heart can be heard be beating. So we went forward with the Heartbeat Protection Act, quickly passed the House. We got it past the Senate. Now it's going to the governor's desk. This is actually in a special session. The governor forced this to happen. This is why pro-life governors matter. So this is going to be signed into law. This is the second time that South Carolina is going to pass a Heartbeat Abortion Prevention Act, and we think it's actually going to be upheld this time because of changes in their state Supreme Court. Interesting line that I heard tonight that I wanted to share with you that I thought was really cool to think about. Politico now reports every state south of Virginia and east of New Mexico has now implemented or passed a new abortion limit since Roe versus Wade fell. Life is winning, baby. Don't let anyone tell you life is not winning. Life is totally winning. Every state south of Virginia, don't get me started on the state of Virginia and the challenges we have in the state of Virginia. Hello, Glenn Youngkin, you need to do better. But every state south of Virginia and east of New Mexico has now implemented or passed a new abortion limit since the fall of Roe versus Wade. I know a lot of folks in the media have tried to say that the pro-life movement's losing. They feel like after 49 years, because we weren't able to immediately abolish abortion in every single state since the fall of Roe in June, we've been an epic failure. That's not true, right? We had 49 years of the Supreme Court saying abortion was immoral, good, and okay. For us to say we're not even a year out, we're 11 months out from that moment, and every state south of Virginia and east of New Mexico has implemented an abortion restriction, that is massive. That is absolutely massive. Life is totally winning. Speaking of life is winning, I'm going to go to my last article. There was an article today in The Hill about Susan B. Anthony List, our friends of Susan B. Anthony List, Kellyanne Conway getting together to educate the GOP, Republican contenders and, for president, for Senate, for all races, how to talk about abortion. We've been doing this as well at Students for Life Action. Actually, I'm 2 weeks late on getting something to an RNC member to train other RNC members, Republican National Committee members, the National Committee men and women that are elected from each state, on the hard topics and how to answer questions and how to address some of these things. But this is good. The main talking point that we need to be sharing, actually I just thought I have to write down before I forget. The main talking point we need to be sharing with these candidates is we're winning. Stop retreating from this issue. This is not a bad thing. And you just need to step it up. So, Tim Scott just announced he's running for president. Tomorrow, in a few hours, Ron DeSantis is going to announce he's running for president. Our messaging to all of the GOP contenders, whether it's Donald Trump, whether it's Ron DeSantis, whether it's Tim Scott, whether it's Nikki Haley, it has to be 100% clear. Abortion is 100% a federal issue, just like it's a state and community issue. And if you are serious about earning the pro-life vote, you have to be serious and get on record what you support. And at the very minimum, what you should support is, as president, saying you would sign a Heartbeat Abortion Protection Act. That should be simple. That should be elementary. This should not be hard. So stay tuned for Students for Life Action tomorrow. We have an interesting survey we're gonna conduct starting in May. We're gonna do it every month with the pro-life generation, where you stand, which contenders you're excited about, If you think we should even consider endorsing in the primary, something we've never done, I want to hear your opinions on it. So make sure you sign up and get all the like alerts from Students for Life Action, because you're going to see this, and you're going to see a really cool notes home for the pro-life generation graphic series we're doing about the contenders tomorrow. But I'll see you tomorrow. Bye, everyone.